welcome to our work session this evening for comprehensive plan. And it says on the agenda that there are
We might want
Well, I'll introduce myself. So, I know some of you. I mentioned before I went to high school with you. So, my name is Will White. I am a Berlin resident, but I'm here tonight as a representative of Mead and Hunt. I am the project manager, senior planner on this project specifically for Berlin Comp Plan. Been with Mead and Hunt for a couple years. Before that, I was the transportation planner at City of Salisbury for almost 9. So, long breadth of experience in the region and in this type of stuff. And once you guys are set,
I think we're pretty set, so we will turn the meeting over to Will for his presentation.
Perfect. Any immediate questions before I get started? All right. So just so everybody knows, we have a partner on this one. They couldn't be with us tonight, but GMV, George Malvers, which is a local firm out of Salisbury, is doing the water element of the comp plan. We'll kind of talk about that as we get into it, but want to make sure they're represented as well. They are sub to us here. Tonight, we'll kind of go over project understanding as we've worked through it so far, existing conditions and the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis we did. That's what SWOT means for the town. Kind of building on things that had already been done previously by Beacon in the strategic study or strategic plan. We'll talk community engagement, and then we'll go into priorities and goals, and that's where we're going to get into some open discussion. So right off the top, sorry. So bear with me for a couple minutes. This the first couple slides are a little wordy. Maryland has a very specific set of comprehensive plan requirements. They are based in law, as we'll kind of talk about. The comp plan has to be updated every 10 years or at least reviewed. It is Berlin's plan. It is overseen by the Planning Commission, adopted by Town Council. Maryland Department of Planning doesn't get to approve or deny, but they can comment on whether it is compliant with Maryland law or not. Does that make sense? So they're not an approving body, but they are a compliance body. The comprehensive plan can be amended after adoption if things change. There's a process for that. You can't just do it, but it can be done. The required elements for a comp plan in the state that apply to Berlin are on the right. There's a couple that aren't in here, like mineral extraction. You know, you're not mining coal here, which is a thing in Western Maryland. So there are issues at times that comes up. The big for Maryland is the goals and objectives, and land use, transportation, housing, municipal growth. Those 4 things are very inextricably tied together, and they kind of control what happens with everything else. Since the 2010 comp plan was done, obviously the town's continued its planning efforts, and there's been adjacent planning efforts by other bodies around you. So since then, you've had your historic district guidelines in 2012, the Berlin Falls Plan in 2016, 2023 Rail Trail Plan, 2024 Design Guidelines, 2025 Worcester County did the Greenways Master Plan. Our name's up there because we did that one, so we have all the data. That was a Mead and Hunt project. And then, of course, the 25 to 28 strategic plan, and now here we are. That is normal. That is not outside the ordinary. It is normal for a town to get its comp plan and to start building out the things underneath of it. The next update comes along, and then it all gets stacked back together, put nice and neat into a comp plan, and the whole process kind of starts over again. Here's our project schedule. So we've been through fall 2025. We are currently tonight right in here. So the baseline conditions we've gone over, we'll talk about that coming up. And we've got a draft story map website. I believe you all had the link in your packets. So tonight we need to kind of go through that, and we'll talk about identifying the goals and vision and the opportunities and constraints for future growth. The constraints and opportunities are kind of something we'll work as well, but the goals and vision, like, we need that for us to continue. And of course, coming up over the next few quarters, there's the, we'll start drafting out parts of the plan. We'll have the additional public meetings, eventually a complete draft section of the plan for public review, and then of course going through adoption and final. So here's what we're looking at right now. Since 2010, so between 2010 and 2020, Berlin's population increased by 12.1%. That's probably low. 2020 census data was wonky, thanks to COVID and amongst a new process that they were trying out at the time, and it's kind of low across the board. That's still a lot. So 12.1 is a lot. The average in the US is like just under 5%. Worcester County is less than 2. So Berlin is accelerating faster. It's already like 4 times the amount of the state. I think that's on the next slide. As of 2024, the population is 5,349. Projected growth. So you've already tripled the state. You're quadruple or quintuple the county. And by 2050, we're probably going to get to 5,518-ish people if the trend holds.
Well, can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Just for clarification, the data was pulled from the municipal boundary census blocks, correct? Not the 21811 zip.
Correct. Yep.
Hey, we'll ask one more question.
Yes.
So are they projecting that in the next 25 years, we're only going to increase our population about 150?
So it's based on percentage just because it's a low population?
Okay.
Now, remember, like I said, things change.
Yeah.
So there could be a development, and you can build a development tomorrow in theory, and it's 2,000 people, right? You could also, probably one of your big changes was the cater farm.
Okay.
See what I'm saying? So things can change. That is an average over time.
Yeah, got it.
Does that kind of make
It
sense?
does.
Like long-term planning, you're looking like over 100 years kind of thing. So current population density, this is live on that story map online. This is obviously based on, again, census data, so it's number of respondents. Most of this looks pretty right. This is official data, so I'm not gonna go change it because it's official US data. But most of it looks pretty right. Obviously downtown's dense, this area is dense, you got some down here, but then you have obviously open blocks where there's probably more people, but you just had a low census response rate.
Question, how come you're not showing really anything for Ocean's East?
So when that was taken in,
Right?
there was nobody, there was a farm in 2020.
It was
It didn't exist.
between,
Yeah,
So this
That's why.
is 6 years old.
Okay.
yeah, which is the most current, so 3, so by the time it actually gets released, it's 3 years after the census. It's about 3 years old. We can project forward, and census does do certain things like that, but again, it's based on the 2020 data, so it's always wonky.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep. Demographics across the town, right? So the male-female split, that's about normal, and that's nothing crazy. Median age is normal for the US, but very young for Worcester County. So I think Worcester County's like 54, so the town's pretty young in comparison. The town is largely white, which kind of, again, is normal for the Eastern Shore.
So tell me how more current data will be incorporated into this.
This is the most current official data we have. Everything else is a projection from Census Bureau. The next most official data is actually 2030. Yeah.
So Ocean's East will not be considered in this?
We can assume, and we can kind of talk that based on what they, like number of units they have and if they're full or not, and that is part of the projection. But realistically, it doesn't appear in US Census data until 2030. Yeah, and that's everything that gets built between now and 2030, that's the way it is.
In population calculations, do you include renters?
It does. It's responses to the Senate, so it's residences, not ownership. Yep.
keeping in mind that many is an exaggeration, but a lot of people don't fill out their census.
And that is a problem across the board.
Yeah.
2020 was particularly bad because they couldn't send people door to door, which was the issue. Normally that gets evened out and they're able to normalize that better because they can send people to go knock and check. They couldn't do it in 2020. So fully admit, there's a problem, nationally planners are 2020 is kind of it's not a wash, but it's taken with a grain of salt compared to 2010.
So that question, and you might get to this, what is the, I don't want to say inflated number, but what is the projection that you're going to use to figure this out between now and whatever you had earlier, 2050?
So we are taking that number, 12.1% over the time, the growth. Does that make sense?
It does.
And normalizing over a decade. It's not 12.1% per year.
Okay.
Because that would drastically inflate your number.
Right.
Yeah.
But over 10-year span.
Yep. That year ends up being 120%.
Right, I'm not saying 12%.
Right.
But I'm just saying that I'm curious on how we're gonna factor in, how you're going to formulate this with the planning commission, considering things like Ocean East, and then we're not under projecting.
So,
our things.
to alleviate your concern about Ocean's East, because that sounds like the hang-up,
Well,
that is actually a
It's a
very,
significant
it's- yeah, it's-
population.
right,
Yeah.
and that's actually a very easy number, because you probably know how many units they are, and we can call them and see what their occupancy is. So that's an easy number to project in, if that's the primary concern.
Doing different phases, I mean, that could.
But until they're built, they don't
Yes.
exist.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you guys ever supplement with ACS data?
We can, yeah, and we do.
Just to see what that projection is from 2025 back to 2020 and see if that differential means anything significant?
And there's some ACS data in here,
Okay.
as we get into it.
Can you explain what ACS data is?
The-
American Community Survey,
Yes.
so it's done annually, but it's a projected number. We use it a lot in like our GIS mapping.
So essentially Census Bureau goes back and they do a small sampling of the population, 15%, I
Yeah.
think is the number that sounds right. They do like a 15% voluntary response, and they try to normalize it across the board. It is useful, but there's a much larger margin of error versus the
It'd be
official
interesting
estimates.
to see if there's a huge spike from 2020 to 2025.
It's, had there been, it would have gotten picked
Yeah.
up. Yeah. And this, like I said, this is an easy number for us to go back and find. As long as I think it's a rear near development, as long as they're willing to work with us on what their occupancy is, we can figure that out very easily.
Go back to that map a minute. Where do you see that double line, where Main Street is, and then there's another dash?
That's an annexation, so the annexation dips in there, for whatever reason. I don't know why, it's how it was annexed, or at least mapped at the time. Because this is actually coming from the town, we didn't create that way.
What is that there? That's the other.
That's the railroad.
That's the end of.
Oh, that's a railroad, okay.
Yeah, that's the railroad right there, and then right next to it's Main Street. Don't worry, I did that double take the first time too.
Okay.
Yeah, I did the exact same thing. Does that make sense now? You good with that?
I am,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Said another way, 42% of Berlin's population has a bachelor's degree or higher. That is very high for the Eastern Shore. This is a very professional population. Median household income, again, keeping in with that, 81,000. 1,973 total housing units. That's about right for, it's a little low, but about right for the population. Household size, 2.8. Keeping in line with that education, right, that higher education level, the vast majority of your jobs, 30.7%, not vast majority, but the largest chunk, is education, healthcare, and social work. Then, in keeping with the fact that this is Worcester County, and it's a resort area, the next biggest chunk is tourism, essentially, and food services, restaurants. Next chunk is professional and scientific, that's engineers, architects, lawyers, all the other things. That is, between those three, that's your chunk of your employment in the area, or that your residents have. And then the rest is public administration, retail, construction, et cetera. Another way of looking at jobs, this is what's called loads. This is obviously the bigger the bubble, the more jobs, and it's kind of like, it's a bubble map, right? So it's not on each location, but it's a correlation of jobs around town. So AGH, I have some various things, same thing I am, there's AGH right there. Decatur, the two Decaturs, downtownish, and then some employers up in here. Said another way, there are 2,828 people that come in from outside town limits. They come into town limits to work every day. There are 353 people that live and work in Berlin, and there are 1,922 residents that leave town limits to go to work every day. Does that make sense? Okay. This, I will, one caveat, I will say this number, 1922, includes people like me who work from home, but my office is in Baltimore. So that's not 100%. Does that make sense? Like, my assigned location is Baltimore, but I work, well, in my house.
Tell me the 353.
It's how many people live and work in town on a daily basis.
Can we get a breakdown of your industry, like of the 353? Is that concentrated in healthcare or is that concentrated in arts and entertainment?
I will see if that's possible. I don't know if the census data breaks out that way, but I will find out.
Especially with that 28,
Yeah.
20, like, are the people coming into town working within a particular
Mhm.
industry?
My guess is that,
Teachers.
my guess, teachers and healthcare,
Yeah.
which make up both of these two numbers, probably also a large chunk of the manufacturing, i.e. like Bill Jack and blah, blah, blah. And, yeah, and it's kind of service trades. These people are probably people that work in Ocean City, Salisbury.
Well, it's the opposite, it's the same, like, as many of us live in Berlin as educators and we ship out.
Mhm.
So they'll pull
Yeah,
them up,
sure.
like, I'm sure.
Move between school systems, et cetera. Yep,
I really would like to see that breakdown.
I'll see if it exists. Because this is coming from census data. I'll see if it's broken down that way. I can do that for you. Land use. So this is current land use as zoned right now. Your growth areas here on the boundary, identify growth areas. Obviously, these here, the infills in between. What's actually solid colors is the existing. The vast majority of the town is single-family housing. R1, R2, R3. Some commercial blocks throughout. Commercial also occupies most of the historic district. We can talk about later on in the comp plan if that's the most appropriate zoning. Maybe mixed use is probably better given its actual usage, but we'll talk about that over time. And of course, the green belt, which is always an object of discussion. Probably something that we'll talk about today.
And where you see, Park 57 here in Park, that's no longer investment.
Yeah, right. So that's showing it's a growth area. So we had noticed that too in there. We actually had it pulled. So that was originally showing as growth area too. I had them pull it when we made the map, knowing that it was Heron Park now. But it's there. Yes, it just needs to be changed, which will be fixed in the comp plan.
I'm just curious, who maintains the town's data? Does anyone know? Like,
It's
the actual
planning department.
GIS?
It's planning department. That's where we got it from.
Okay. And is that being updated?
Megan actually just did update our zoning map, so it should be pretty up to date, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know whether you want me to do this or not, I'm injecting comments right now, but the growth area where the Abbott farm is.
I was just gonna bring that up.
That one?
No, yeah. I personally feel very strongly the town should do everything it can possibly do. Keep that area open as a green area.
I think, to alleviate your concern, if you were able to pull up the Worcester County's version of our growth area and tie it into this, there was, I'm gonna call it 4 or 5 locations, and Berlin Planning Commission basically removed all the growth areas except for, I'm gonna call it the business area of Route 50. Everything else we removed.
That one.
Yeah, everything else we recommended to remove from the growth area.
So this is the process which gets officially pulled up your books.
Okay.
If that's where the town wants to go, it needs to happen in the growth management area of the comp plan, and then the state will consider it legitimate. Does that make sense?
I just think it's critical to keep the town defined. And also, I think, I don't know whether it's appropriate to bring this up now, but we really ought to be looking at ways of funding, buying development rights or something. The owner of that property is very open to trying to keep it that way himself. He wants to do the right thing.
He's been there like 50 years. Yeah.
Talked to him many times.
Yeah.
He'd like to see the right thing for the town. He really cares about it. I just think that's critical to keep the town's definition.
As of right now, this is what's legal to MVP.
I understand.
You know what I mean?
But I'm to put a comprehensive
Yep.
plan, we want to state goals. I don't know whether everybody else agrees, but that's a goal we want to accomplish. We should mention it. The Abbott Farm is a critical element to the town's future appearance, in my opinion, and livability.
Well, I think maybe at the end, for those playing at home, it might be beneficial, and really everyone here, so that we're all on the same page, to define what a comprehensive plan is meant to accomplish.
Yeah.
Maybe you've got that further on.
We'll kind of get into it as we start digging
That's
into
why I
like
was
goals.
unsure where
Yeah.
you're coming out, while you have the backup.
Yeah, I think people, may not have a full
Yeah.
understanding of the
Okay.
purpose.
So, circling past that, right, so transportation. This is, what's up on the map is obviously against the town's current limits. What's up on the map is what was approved, is your alternative transportation network that was approved in the Worcester County Greenways Master Plan. It was easier for us pulling, so we have it. That is the existing proposed county bike and ped network. Does that make sense? That was current in conversations with the town as of 2025. Obviously, things can change even in a year. So this is something we can also, subject to public opinion and debate as we go through the process. Community facilities. This is the one slide that's a little different than what's in your packet, because we call it a couple errors. There's a normal amount of community facilities for the town. There's nothing missing, really. That's the library, the health, there's a health department facility, small dental clinic, but it's still there. The hospitals, town services, fire, police, parks. And there's where Heritage Park shows up for you. I knew we got it at one point. I knew we got it in there. Environmental features. This is for the Maryland General Environmental layer. It's showing everything, but the big points for Berlin is obviously the now wetlands around Heron Park that used to be the treatment plants. And just kind of wetlands throughout town and some of the properties. And the orange you're seeing, that's historic properties that, Burley's, the old Burley's End downtown, some of the old Main Street homes. Any questions on those? SWOT analysis. So this is the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis that we do for projects or for towns as part of this. We look at like what the town has going for it, what are its weaknesses. So strengths, weaknesses, those are internal, like things that town has some kind of control over. Opportunities and threats are external, right? Things that are happening around the town. County's making a move, state's doing this, there's changes in policy, etc. Things that the town can only react to. A lot of this we went back through the strategic plan because it was recent, went through, found everything that made sense, and then also dove deeper. So I won't sit here necessarily read everything for you, or read everything, there's a lot of words, but you're in the fastest growing region in Maryland, it's a strength, right? Regional transportation crossroads, you got 113 and 50 coming right together. The town's a historic gem, really. It's downtown and residential neighborhoods, very walkable, very bikeable. Especially in the older parts of town, they don't need a lot of changes because they were designed around horses and buggies, so they're tight and cars move slow and they're just safe, right? That's an advantage. Weaknesses, there's a lot of older housing stock. What comes with being historic is they require a lot of maintenance. Because it's a growing town and housing hasn't kept up, there's a lack of affordable housing. There's disparity in access to parks based on what side of 113 you're on. There's aging public infrastructure in a lot of places. There's a lot of old storm sewers that are collapsing. There's areas prone to nuisance flooding that ties directly into that storm sewer issue. Areas of traffic congestion with safety concerns, mostly 113. And areas that are non-compliant with ADA. Every town has that, but it is serious and needs to be addressed. General opportunities. There's a lot of underutilized properties out there in town that can be infilled. So you don't necessarily need to expand the town to grow the town, if that makes sense. You can go higher in density. And by higher, I don't necessarily mean like higher rise. Changing zoning ordinances to provide greater flexibility. Those are things we can identify throughout this whole process. State funding programs can support a lot of the town's goals. They do exist. Maryland's actually very good about that. Maryland's very into smart growth, which is keeping development compact and preserving rural lands and things like that. And Berlin sits on a high-speed communications infrastructure, which is a big deal for companies and people looking to relocate. Threats, in every town, every stakeholder group, resident has varying reactions and preferences, right? That's going to be global. General resistance to change. The big one that's hitting every town, but it's hit Berlin particularly hard lately, is withdrawal of federal fundings. All right. you guys experienced with the grant, there's other stuff, other towns are getting hit hard. There's just no money all of a sudden for support outside of the state coming down to the federal government. And of course, impacts associated with severe weather, flooding, and then how that ties into that maintaining and that aging infrastructure, which those two things are tied together. All right. So that's your existing vision. That's where the town is right now. We have future public outreach, and I can work with the staff. We don't need to debate dates tonight by any means, but we worked out a public workshop date perfectly after we had, that's where the public can come in and ask questions, like a round robin kind of thing. Once we have the vision and goals defined, we want them to be able to comment on that. The interactive website you have a draft of, and we can post that as soon as we get the thumbs up from staff after this meeting. Flyers and social media blasts we are able to create if you guys want to, and we'll get them out to you. And then any pop-up events, I think we have 1 or 2 pop-up events in the contract where we can, town's hosting a big event and we'll show up. We'll set up a table and talk to everyone to walk up to us. So we'll work out all those dates. But those are what's coming for public input. So this is where we can talk about priorities and goals and what the comp plan is. So the comprehensive plan is the town's everything. If any future plan or any future project goes for state or federal funding, and it is not in the comprehensive plan or consistent with the comprehensive plan, it will not be considered. So the comprehensive plan has to kind of contain the town's strategic vision, how it wants to get there, and what its facilities to get there those projects are. That's why you can amend it, because 10 years is a long time to just guess. So you can amend it and add things. And you can do follow-up plans that are kind of attached to it that cover any gaps, which is why that whole cycle exists that I showed you where all those little sub-area plans came in later, because they were covering a gap. So to get bikeways funding, you had to have a bikeways plan, kind of thing. That's what the comprehensive plan is. So that's why it's updated every 10 years. It is essentially like, I hesitate to use the word town's constitution, but it is kind of like, that is the guiding document for everything the town does. It covers all the land use. It limits its growth to where it can or cannot annex. Zoning has to match the comp plan. They have to go together. They don't necessarily need to be done at the same time, but those two do have to match. Changes in zoning cannot be inconsistent with the comprehensive plan. And then that also controls where you put your utilities for growth. Does that make sense to everybody? For example, if you need to extend a water line to get to a project, if that area was not in the growth plan, MDE will not fund it. Perfect example right there. Are there any questions?
Well, it's not a question.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is the time to say, I wanted to just, we don't have to change it necessarily, but I think the strength of fastest growing region in Maryland, I don't consider that a threat, but I also think that should be an opportunity.
I thought it was a threat.
It's a strength.
Yeah, strength and-
Yes, not
So
just a strength.
I think when we're talking tonight,
Not our-
here,
I assume we're probably talking about housing costs is where we're going with this.
No, that's not at all.
Infrastructure, training, all of it. Yeah.
And that, that's a valid point. Valid point for sure. Any other questions before we start jumping into this? And then we can talk a lot about what just came up as well. Okay.
You said something when you initially started on this slide, you referenced projects, new projects. If they're not part of the plan, then can you explain a little more about what is meant by a new project?
So,
Is that
consistence, a better word to use?
project,
Yeah.
An outside, not outside, but a private
Sure.
development.
So say somebody wants to annex it. I'm trying to pick a spot off the top of my head that's on a town limits right on the edge.
Yeah.
Something down Sea Hall, right? Somebody wants to annex it.
There's a lot of places that want to get it.
Right. And that's common everywhere because they need access to utilities, so they're trying to tie into something, et cetera. If Berlin has limited that, if they have defined a growth area not to be that, you cannot annex them in. You have to go back to NDP and amend the growth zone and the comprehensive plan first.
Which is part of the process of an annexation.
Correct.
A review process on the part of.
So it's more accurate for me to say if it's not consistent with the comp plan, it cannot happen. Does that make more sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So that takes us back to looking at that growth area you had where the Abbott Farm and all of that spot is.
The current growth zone.
For sure, yeah, by amending and adjusting that, really and truly, things like that could also halt what could possibly be another, one of those other big places, could possibly, or am I not? I mean, that's within the town, however.
So, yes and no.
Okay.
If it's already within town boundaries, does that automatically?
What it would stop you is from extending water service to them.
Okay.
And things like that. Now, say somebody that comes in and is like, I want to develop them as part of the county, I want to develop them as 1 acre residential, blah, blah, then that's between them and county, you guys have lost control of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because now it's outside town limits.
Yeah.
I know from the planning commission, when we looked at some of those areas and not having them in the growth area, it was so we weren't having these conversations with developers and them going, it's in your growth area.
Mhm.
Because we've had people hit a floor a couple years back where he was calling us a fool to our face and that we either grow or die as a town.
Yeah.
Well,
look at
along
that
those
road.
lines, having it in the growth area does not mean that the town automatically must allow it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to, yes, you're starting getting into zoning and
Yeah,
everything else,
yeah,
but yes,
right.
yes.
Yeah. It doesn't force the towns.
Yeah, if it was
Accept
zoned
it.
for it and they came in with a project that was applicable to the zoning and it was in the growth area, you would have a hard time finding the legal means to say.
I'm
no.
thinking more of annexations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not gonna say you couldn't say no, but it's hard to get the legal footing to.
Right, if it's zoned appropriately, it's very hard to say,
Right.
yeah, exactly.
If it's not zoned appropriately, well, you fall back on, well, it's not in the comp plan.
Right.
Now I have to go back to MDP, and so you start going through the whole process. Does all that make sense? Okay. All right, so so on the same exact subject, land use and development capacity. The existing comp plan, so the top half is from 2010. So calls for the development of the green belt around the town, interest in the urban growth boundary, that got defined. Promoting new highway-focused zoning around Route 346 with the goal of strengthening the local economy and preserving existing community character. None of those are necessarily bad. They need to be revisited because here it is 16 years later. Okay, potential new areas of emphasis we have found just through our discussions and going through the strategic plan and things like that. Identifying opportunities to improve housing options. The cost of housing in Berlin is a major issue and topic that comes across everybody. I shaking heads across the room, I see it. Improved park and open space access throughout the town, but east of 113 especially. Identify underutilized properties for redevelopment opportunities. That's those infills. Those are those like grass lots and parking lots that nobody's using, or the tiny little shack on a house where it's like, okay, that could be a quadplex that looks like a single family home. Notice that's a four-day apartment kind of thing. As we work through this process and we're going through, we have the Esri GeoPlanner at the bottom is the software we'll use. We will model the different land use scenarios as part of the process. So, any opinions or discussion on areas of emphasis here, whether old or new?
In terms of housing options, would it be helpful to have a stat on housing sales, maybe for the last 5 years, in certain price brackets, like 100 to 150, 150 to 250, and identify how many houses sold in those brackets? Would that be easy to put together?
We can pull property sales, yeah.
Right. Just so you know where we stand in terms of housing costs. Everyone says it is not, which is probably true. Where exactly?
Well, and I think Jack made the point at the last meeting, using the term attainable versus affordable.
Exactly.
What does affordable mean?
There's little A affordable, there's capital A affordable.
Yeah,
Those are two different
right,
things.
right.
Little A affordable is like, I can pay my mortgage. Capital A affordable is subsidized program. That's federal money.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
yeah, that's good to know.
Yeah. So when you see capital A affordable housing written somewhere, it's talking about federal money. All right. Any more comments on this? And there's open discussion at the end too, so we can circle back. Anybody comes up with it.
I don't want to waste time on the technology. You're using Esri GeoPlanner, was that the town's platform of choice? Yours?
It's actually, we have a
Is
whole
that-
GeoPlanner team.
Sorry, I don't want to take too much time on this. That's being deprecated this year.
Yeah.
Are you
We have
guys
other
gonna
programs
move-
too.
Okay,
We have like a whole staff that does nothing but that stuff.
okay.
And they're local, they're in Baltimore too. So
Is there going to be a public facing, like I see you have story map, are you guys going to leverage like survey?
So when we come to the proposed, you'll have a split screen where you can like move the, you know, it's all about the scroller on StoryNet.
Yeah.
And you can see old versus new right over top of each other. You know what I'm talking. Transportation. So existing comp plan, 2010. Improving the pedestrian connections from the east side of 113. You guys almost got there. We're close. Requiring traffic impact analysis for any new commercial development or residential development of more than 4 units. That's a very low bar, based on experience. Developing a streets master plan to address items such as traffic noise and removing street traffic calming devices. Sorry, I talked too fast. Potential new areas of emphasis or reconsidering some of those. Follow up on the need to better connect residents on the east side of 113. That process is happening now. We're aware of it. We're following it. Especially with using the multiple travel modes. Address areas of roadways that frequently flood. That is a nuisance flooding issue. However, it can become a safety issue if something happens, fire department can't get through. So that's why that's important. Incentivize rather than discourage new development with more flexible traffic demand standard. Any immediate reaction to any of those?
Yes.
Go ahead.
The potential new areas of emphasis,
Mhm.
follow up on need to better connect residents in east, well, it runs both ways.
Mhm.
You know, you need to connect the residents of east to the west and the residents of west to the east. So that goes both ways.
Sorry. In my mind, that was get east side to the services on west side. I understand what you're saying. So my apologies. So cross 113 connection.
Yeah.
Removing the barrier.
I think a lot of that speaks to, frankly, where the food line is, the main grocery store is.
Same conversation we just had.
One of those
Yep.
driving
Yep.
factors.
Going back to your comment that something has to be in the plan to be eligible for funding opportunities, how specific is that?
It has to be consistent. Yeah. So if the town has a comprehensive plan goal of improving pedestrian and bike connections, well, that can be further defined later on in subplan.
Does that have to be a sub-plan, or just
Not necessarily.
saying, addressing frequent nuisance flooding is enough to bring in MDE if needed?
It's enough to apply for funding,
Okay.
I would think. The more you do, the more MDs, like any other government bureaucracy, the more you come to them with, you've invested skin in the game with you're at 30% drawing stage, the more likely they are.
We could draft a sub-plan at a later date to apply for funding.
And then the sub-plan will automatically apply as long as it's consistent with the comp plan.
Right.
If they are at odds with each other, well, now you're back to, I have to amend the comp plan to be, so that the two are consistent. So as long as you have to at least defined it as an opportunity now, it can be dealt with later. Housing. Existing comp plan, 2010. Emphasis on maintaining the community character, not a bad thing. Identifies the desire to create a funding source for grant matching fund opportunities, suggests promoting commercial development within the town to provide more jobs, and developing educational programs to help homeowners and renters budget more effectively. New areas of emphasis as the entire country struggles with housing, right? But especially on the East Coast and Mid-Atlantic. And even though we're relatively rural, we're not immune. Identifying specific sites for new housing development opportunities with town and underused properties. This is the setting you up to be able to approve it, build development kind of thing. Focus on maintaining and improving housing quality conditions of the aging housing in town. Again, housing's not bad, it's just historic, it needs more maintenance. Allow more flexible zoning and allow residential uses in commercial areas when appropriate. You have a lot of very specific zoning zones. The trend over the last 20 years has been move more towards broadly defined zones and by right action. We don't necessarily need to do that, but that is helping in a lot of places and something that we can kind of discuss. So, any, again, immediate reactions to these things?
Could you give an example of that? Like, instead of having R1, R2, you would just have residential zone?
Or basically, or instead of, so like, perfect example, we had talked, downtown's listed as commercial. We know there's apartments in there, right? It's really mixed use. But by calling it commercial, you've now stopped anybody else from coming doing an infill next to it that then matches the rest of the buildings.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, like we have some zoning that doesn't even exist anymore, industrial.
Right.
Why do we have industrial
Yeah.
zoning? Well,
And to that point, there's a lot of areas that are actually zoned industrial in town. I'm thinking like Arctic, the heating and cooling, and the
Yeah.
Dyson. Those are really maybe heavy commercial, like they're not industrial. Industrial is like chemical development, things like that. So it's like you limited properties that could be other things. Because you can put apartments in commercial. But you can't put apartments in industrial.
I was about to say, but it's
Five or
housing.
sixplex back.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And the final product of the comp plan update can lead then into a conversation about the zoning ordinance.
Yeah.
correct?
Right, that's the goal, right? I mean, that's.
Right.
Yeah.
So as long as we go through and we set up the comp plan, well, then you're just now rewriting the zoning to match the comp plan, and then those two things go together.
This is the big umbrella.
Comp has to go first.
Right.
Yeah. When I was at Salisbury, we went the other way, because there was a reason for it, and I don't remember why now, and then it never got implemented, because it went off the rails. There was a reason why, and I don't remember what it was.
So a comprehensive rezoning exercise will follow the comp plan being adopted and approved by the state and us.
And then, so like, when you go to the state with the rezoning, what they are literally going to do is take it and check it against the comp plan. If it's either consistent with the comp plan or it's not. If it's consistent, it goes. If it's not consistent, try again.
The logical timing,
Yeah.
to follow
Yeah.
the momentum.
That is the most common way to do it.
Well, then really, the muscle has already been done at that point too, because we've learned that through the comp plan.
It's not-
What areas we want to rezone.
Typically what happens is people then go, especially when they transition to like a more smart growth code, which is more open, it's a more flexible, less zones, and like by right-ish kind of development. Basically, it tells you what you can't do versus what you can do. And then everything, if it's not specifically banned, then you can do it. They spend the time, because that's actually a much simpler code. A lot of towns will spend the bulk of that time, like developing like a pattern guide and like context design guides, like how we want things to look. Like, as long as it looks like this, it might be a sixplex apartment building, but it looks like a single family from the front.
So then, like I had two big things I want to talk about tonight from me. So then, the discussion that we're having, or that we're getting to have now with ADUs is actually kind of perfect timing in relation to this,
Yep.
right? Because then we need to develop that to get into our land use, our land use and our housing part of our comprehensive plan, right?
Correct.
Like, just the process for
Yes.
everyone and people watching on TV. So, okay, that's.
This is-
So,
You fell into the best possible time to do ADUs. is what it came down to.
Yeah.
I realized that ADUs is being pushed down from the state,
Have
but
to,
yeah.
and that'll lead into my second point later. That I want to talk about.
Okay. Any immediate other reactions to this?
I guess my brain, and maybe, now I'll share this with you because you don't know this, after 5 o'clock, it's kind of, am I hearing you? Did I hear all the parts? But, so I'm hearing these things, and I'm hearing Berlin taking the steps to do the things to make our town aware, to keep us in the right places, but to also safeguard, protect, all those things, to say this stuff about ourselves. How does our comprehensive plan weigh out when it comes to our neighboring bodies? And I say that meaning the county. When we have this in place and we have our ordinances and things, how is this received and have to be received by those neighboring entities? Or does it?
Give me an example, or a theoretical example, so I kind of know what you're talking about.
So I'm thinking here about annexation and all those other things, right?
Mhm.
If we put these things in place, what we've seen up until now in other cases where things come in and somebody wants to do something and it's not in our it's not in our jurisdiction per se, but they say, well, the county told us that we've had to come to you. You know what I mean? And those types of things. So is this going to be that thing that says,
Kind of. What you're saying is always going to exist. And it happened, Salisbury, Wycombe did the same thing, right? I mean, Brian's had those meetings with me a lot of times too. If it's in your growth area, county's automatically going to push Berlin. If it's outside the growth area, maybe. If it's right up against the border, maybe not. A lot of times people come to, the reason places want to annex into towns, especially into municipalities in general, especially in Maryland,
right?
is the septic laws, amongst other things, are so restrictive that they would rather pay to tie into town utilities. That's what it is. Plus then you throw on the cost of fire suppression, and the pumps needed to keep a house on well at code are so prohibitively expensive, they don't have that issue on town utilities, it's just cost suppression.
Right.
That's really what drives it.
Yeah,
So,
and I understand
yeah.
that. I'm just wondering, not that I'm saying, I don't want these conversations to happen because they're always going to happen, but I'm just when it comes to this, and I feel like I'm hearing the parts where you're stating, well, if it's not in the comp plan, then when it comes to the state, ...
Yeah.
But when it comes to our neighboring entity, not so much.
So the county has its own comp plan. And they do. So every locality, local jurisdiction,
Yeah.
whatever you call it, has a comp plan in Maryland. They're going to do things that are consistent with their comp plan. Berlin has to do things consistent with its comp plan. Ideally, there's overlap. Like there's communication and talking between the two over what is and isn't. It doesn't always happen.
Well, that's
especially
the
in
part I
rural
think I'm
areas.
looking for. The overlap it's not something that no one can mandate, but we would hope
Yeah.
in an
There's-
ideal world.
Ideal world, absolutely. So like this issue, and it comes up, it's common everywhere, even in urban areas, but very common in rural areas, is the towns and municipalities are always slightly on the more advanced, but I hesitate to use the word progressive, a progressive edge compared to the rural. The county just tend to be very rural, and therefore very opposed to development.
Got it.
Those two, and that bifurcation is always going to lead to issues at the town growth boundary. Does
Little
that make
friction
sense?
spot.
Yes.
Got it. That's what I was wondering about.
Yeah. And it doesn't, and that's not just Worcester County and Berlin.
Yeah.
That's Dorchester and Cambridge, Wycombe and Salisbury.
Well, so an example of that
Yeah.
would be, so the planning commission identified growth areas that the county comp plan had in its, comp plan that showed growth areas where Berlin said
Didn't want them.
not at all.
Yeah.
You know, that's not at
Yes.
all. So it's, I think if you're saying, so the comp plan is being updated right now, or just has been by the county, is now consistent with our wishes.
Okay.
I believe, right?
With our wishes, got it.
I think it is. I think the growth areas have been removed, because that's where, I think it's what you were getting at.
Yes,
where you saying,
pretty much.
Yeah.
Berlin says that we don't want to grow out. County says you should.
And I
Now
think-
they came
They
against
say
it
all
because
they
of
want.
the-
I think the county county can tell somebody, we're not, I'm being very,
No, I hear
we're
you.
not gonna provide you service, but you're right on the town's border, go to the town, see what they'll say. But they can't force us to annex.
Correct. Correct. You said it better than I could. Here we go.
I'll tell you, your example of why, like, I've always thought it was just water and sewer access. I never really
Why the
thought-
developers want it? There's a business reason.
I mean, I understood that,
Yeah.
but like when we look at Berlin, where if we Berlin offers the right to not annex land, but put them on our sewer and water for 2 times the price. Is that a made up
I think the
thing?
code
That's true.
still allows it, but the mayor and council
Can we
has
change
not
those numbers,
expressed
like 5
interest.
times?
Well, because I'm looking at it, and truthfully, if you're looking at what a developer has, that's not right for Berlin.
No, it's not.
Like, they're
So-
getting a home run with that deal. Like, I would do that,
Yes, they
build it
are.
right outside town, not
Yeah.
pay town taxes, and get what I need.
So there are local examples of that. Salisbury has an urban service district. Depending on who you talk to on the day, they will tell you whether it's a good idea or not. You should reach out to them. Yes.
My recollection is that many years ago, we did have customers just outside of town limits who we extended water and sewer to, and they weren't paying double.
Mhm.
They have since been annexed because they had failing systems and, it was kind of the deal. You want to be in the town, or you want to be on the town system, you have to agree to annexation.
And that's what we did with, I don't know if it's the Rena Center, whatever was over by the old Harley Davidson, was their septic was failing.
Yes.
They came, we annexed that property over there to kind of have a business district of Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Everybody kind of comfortable with that? And kind of the very quick gloss over of like the business pressures annexed into a town. Alright. Water resources. So existing comp plan, not a ton of change realistically. Apply for the water allocation capacity, this is as of 2010, to increase the account to infill vacant lot development and maintain the wellhead protection program, serve nearby areas that have failing wastewater and water systems. That one might not go away. There's some ND stuff around that that I don't want to fully speak on because that's a GMB question. Implement new development stormwater best management practice. The town's been doing that, that's required now, in law anyway. And require proposed annexation in growth areas, document non-point source nutrient runoff, decreases contributing to the coastal base. So GMB went through, credit where credit due, this is their slide. Updates and potential new areas to improve the water resources. Is review current water usage and future capacity as of today, what's happening right now. Needs to develop best practices and recommendations for source protection and meeting future additional allocation needs, basically updating what's there, right? Consider options and areas for installing and find aquifer water source, identify properties within or nearby corporate limits served by septics, evaluate potential and connect them to the town's wastewater system, evaluate stormwater drainage network using the updated MDE 2026 data, and prepare for non-point source pollution permit compliance. That's your MS4. That's probably inevitably coming down at MS 10 already, which is a bear. Any questions there?
Can you explain what that was?
Okay, I was about to say. Is everyone saying
You
MS4?
used one of the terms, didn't you?
So,
That's Spanish.
yeah. So MS4, see if I can get the acronym right. Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System. Yeah, okay. So it's a permit delivered by MDE. Counties are coming onto it. Salisbury's had it for a decade because it's rolling out by size of municipality. So the bigger cities got it first, and it's rolled down, and Berlin's definitely going to get it. If it hasn't already. It requires you to set up a baseline of whatever your baseline year is. This is what was impervious surface, what rain could not drain through. You then have to, so many years, I think it's 10, to deliver reductions on that impervious surface number. So as new properties develop, they have to treat a greenfield site has to 100% treat its runoff through BMPs, which is best management practice. It goes through a biofilter. All those ponds and little filters, the impervious concrete you guys see at like Aldi, that's going through a drainage system, and it's going through filters. It's going through graded stone, et cetera. It's all flushing out all that, the nutrients and stuff that pollute the bay. That, because it's greenfield, it has to account for 100%. So all your new development has to follow that. Anything that was impervious before and redeveloped has to be reduced by 50%. So you have a parking lot, guy comes in, developer wants to build something new. He has to reduce the overall impervious surface that's untreated by 50%. Doesn't mean they can't build out the whole site, but through green roof or treatment or stormwater capture or underground basin, whatever it is, they have to treat that somehow so that pollutants aren't going into the coastal bays. Does that make sense? And it is a very heavy engineering topic that I spent 8 years dealing with at Salisbury and still not an expert.
So can I ask you a question for the planning department? So when we have people come in and they're in your pervious,
It's kind of, there's a series of MS4 calculations. Yeah.
pervious asphalt.
Yeah.
Old ChatGPT once upon taught me that if it's not treated or cleaned after X amount of years, it becomes impervious.
There's maintenance on the things.
So does the state or county or Berlin, how do we protect ourselves from, hey, we put this in, so we qualified, but now 10 years later, we haven't done jack, and so really, it's not doing its job.
So the MS4 comes with the mandate to hire inspectors for that.
And the
Oh.
when you have stormwater, you sign a maintenance agreement.
Yeah,
So if I built something, if I built a pervious asphalt parking lot, and 10 years from now, I just let it get filled in with sediment and it wasn't working, and the town came out and did an inspection, I said, well, I'm not gonna do anything, then they could pay to have it done and make me pay them for
yeah,
it.
they will lien your state, or lien your property.
I'm still stuck on the fact that you put that in check.
It's crazy.
So, correct, everything you said is correct.
Don't trust everything.
So, I am not, I'm preface this with, I am not an expert in MS4 law or regulation. But when you pull the MS4 permit, you are required to document, map everything. You have to have an inspector. You also, with that comes the legal ability to institute a fee, a stormwater fee, which then pays for those things. Because it's not funded by the state, the town's got to keep that.
Does the town have a record of your BMPs?
I honestly cannot answer that off the top of my head.
What is it, BMP?
That's management practice.
All those
Fire
filtering
retention,
practices.
Pervious asphalt. all
It is
that.
it is an umbrella term for anything that treats nitrogen reduction specifically, but they're trying to keep nitrogen out of the day, so it really makes sense.
So I think now might be a good time to do my second point, which is no surprise, is stormwater. I think that if you go through here, 50% of it mentions flooding on these little resources. I think that in our comp plan discussions and our just general discussions, that sooner than later, and with ADUs, the current state of stormwater and how we handle it and how it's administered by the town is going to come sooner than later. We're going to have to address some of the issues. I'm not saying that as saber rattling or anything. I'm just saying that it's obviously going to be forefront. And I think we were sitting in this room and we had a meeting, a stormwater meeting, and that information came down that there's new stormwater regulations that'll be within the next year or two at the time.
Yeah.
So
It's probably not.
I think just, and I did go to the planning commission one time, we were talking about the comp plan, and I asked for more than a couple of paragraphs for stormwater, because it is obviously becoming more and more important, as you noted, with the potential, or you can call it climate change for whatever reason, but we're getting more fierce storms with more flow. So that's my stormwater speech, and I'm done with that for the night.
Has MDE, and this is a question for Ryan or Mary or Kate, has MDE reached out with like a target date of when you're going to get the MS4 at all?
No time or.
No. The new 26 standards have increased the rainfall amount for a 2-year, 10-year plus storm event, and are potentially going to require additional, they're accounting for the intensity and the increased rain events.
Yeah, I'm just saying that it's gonna come flooding in. So,
There are FEMA, prior to 2025, FEMA had also started looking at floodplains, whether the floodplains in the 100-year or 2-year, the 2, the 20, the 50, the 100, 500-year storms map should be updated. I don't know how far they got, if that's still on. There was
I feel like
administration
I-
change in there.
I feel like I very recently saw
Yeah.
some communication about that.
So that is very possible. I will dig into that as well and see if that's still going on. I would think it is, but just knowing the administration changed over, it could have fallen by the wayside. Any other questions that I may or may not be able to answer about the next
Question from Mary, in terms of future capacity for water, didn't Jamie recommend we do a fourth test well or a fourth well and we did some testing?
It's still in the works. They feel like they have located a good spot for it. We have some funding lining up for that, but it's definitely still an active topic.
So we are working on it.
Yes.
All right. Questions or discussion?
I just have one comment for when we start getting into this. And it's going to be a big group discussion, but I know the planning commission, or at least some members at one point in time, had talked about trying to encourage the current industrial to change zones to a mixed use through some active givings. You know, saying, you know, if you guys are interested in doing that, to assist in development. We don't have to sit down and see how everyone talks about it, but when you look at the ice plant, you look at the grain tower, water tower, whatever it is, over by Carmelo's place.
Which is zone industrial.
Zone
which is
industrial,
wild, yeah.
right. It is prime area that is underutilized, and as we keep pushing for mixed use, I think the town should find a way to A, put in a comp plan, and B, assist with it. I don't know what the town does, I don't know what that even looks like, but to try and encourage it, because when we keep pushing for infill, there isn't a whole lot of area for infill. Those are major sectors.
I would agree there's not a lot for greenfield infill, like what's currently open. Also consider infill as what's already there can be increased. Just putting that out there.
What is the status of the old granary? Elevators and all that?
Has there been any movement on that recently?
It's just been sitting stagnant.
Purdue still owns it, they have some.
No, I believe the owner of the
Yes.
activities depot.
Yes, she was the owner.
I mean, taking those towers down and not just quite an undertaking.
There's been demo crews there.
Haven't ran that
I mean, I used to live on Nelson Street. They came out for 2 years straight, absolute demos. Yeah, I think they were overwhelmed. I think the demos are over $1 million.
Oh, yeah.
Is it safe to say the comp plan is like, it is the legal framework for, I'm thinking of general public comment. There's going to be people that don't want to talk about density or infill.
Yeah.
This is, a good way to think about this is the comp plan is giving the town the power to control where that happens. You can't say density is not going to happen, infill's not going to happen. The comp plan helps you target, this is where we want this to happen.
Yes, I would change the word legal to regulatory,
Okay.
but yes.
Okay.
Excuse me, does the comp plan drill down on location to that extent though? Or is that the zoning ordinance?
They have to match.
Both, yeah.
They have to match. So it's like the comp plan's gonna go so far as like, this is a targeted, I'm gonna use downtown again. We're gonna change it to mixed use, the district, and anything that's in it that's not currently mixed use can become mixed use. The details of what that looks like, it's defined in the second. Yeah.
Broad brush.
So
Well, that will be a visual, like, we'll create a visual that is not an updated zoning map.
We don't have to do it at the parcel level. We'll just say this general area is gonna move to mixed use, and then we can
We would define it, we have to define it kind of along parcel lines, but like,
not
it's
at
like
the
this
zoning level.
flexible, yeah.
Okay.
So this might be a little in the weeds, but
It would be defined by streets. I'm sorry, I didn't catch on. We'd really be looking at like blocks.
Right, okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
You're fine. But I guess this is a little technical. So if let's just say we change the zone, do we have to change the charter first? Like how do we, what's that process?
Your zoning is set by ordinance.
Yeah.
Okay, so we would
So
just-
it's not a charter adjustment. it's a
So the
ordinance.
town council has the legal authority to set the zoning as it sees fit, consistent with the comp plan. Does that make sense?
So that does make sense.
Yeah.
Comp plan
And then
first,
goes
then
back.
change.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just to confirm though, if we were to pivot people's zones, we cannot take away rights, we can only give them, correct?
Yeah,
So
I
they
think that's
become,
correct.
yeah, so
I
they
want that
would,
very, like, I don't want to hear
Otherwise
the,
you're-
yeah, downfall.
If they later then change the use of the parcel, it would have to conform to the.
correct. So what they are now becomes what's called a non-compliant use. So they, as long as they stay what they are right now, fine.
But they do lose future rights
As
of.
soon as they go to redevelop, yeah. So it's like, it's usually, we're usually issues when you become more restrictive, like say it's commercial and we're gonna make it residential. Well, it's like, it can stay a business. As long as that person owns it and it stays in the family and nothing changes and everybody else, it can stay like that for 100 years. The second it changes over, they try to do a change of use, the new zoning kicks in.
I've heard mixed use
Yeah.
thrown out there. Can we define what mixed use is?
So mixed use is, and there's limitations, it's not whatever, right? But it allows a lot more flexibility. So the perfect example of mixed use is generally retail with apartments or offices or, light business, like commercial. Downtown it's that. So you got retail, restaurants and everything on the first floor, and you've got apartments above, or offices. It is by definition mixed use, you're just calling it. and that's a historic leftover, but all of downtown is a non-conforming use, the way it's zoned.
Right.
Yeah.
So like a developer could not come in now, I'm gonna use the example of the parking lot, don't think I'm telling you to cut out parking, but that parking lot, they wanted to redevelop that, right? Town sells it, it goes to become a apartment building. They would have to build an apartment building that looks like Ocean's East under current zoning. They could not build something legally that looks like the town without going through the board of appeals. It would actually force them to build something that doesn't look like the character of the town. That's the way it's written there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's great.
It's a bit of like chicken and the egg, like if we want the zoning to change, we kind of have to do zoning first.
Yes.
At a broad scale to put
Yes.
in the comp plan, then we can do a more defined zoning plan based on the comp plan.
Yes.
So it's kind of like the master plan for like a PUD.
Yeah,
It has to match, whatever you want to do has to match what the master plan is.
right.
Same thing,
Right.
it's just now you're at town level.
What's the time frame of all of this?
For us, on the project,
Yeah.
so I don't quote you wrong, let's go back.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, only,
It is all year, but just so that I don't,
Fall of 2026.
it's all year. The goal is to have it in MDE's plan by December. I'm sorry, MVP, around the permanent plan.
Thank you for using words and not acronyms.
Sorry, I was in the Army for a long time.
No,
acronyms
it's
kinda come
okay.
to-
We get it. Some of us get it, but
Yeah.
the outside community don't always. What does he say?
Well, can you talk about the, in the microsite, what do you call it, the website?
The story map?
Story map.
Story map.
There's a community survey in there, which I looked through. At what point does that go out? And that's what I want to know. At what point does that go out?
So the only thing we're waiting, it is actually public right now. So
Okay.
to give you guys access to it, we had to make it public.
Yeah.
We just asked that town not distribute, the staff not distribute it until you guys were good, and then when they give the thumbs up,
Has everybody looked at it? I would say I could
Probably not,
not.
because we didn't push it out in
Yeah.
advance.
Yeah.
Because we didn't want it out in the packet and then the public thinking,
Yeah.
oh, there it is, and
Right.
start responding.
Yeah, no, that's
So
right.
we wanted to hold on.
and we're not trying to hide anything.
No,
It's just
not
we
at all.
asked it to be held back because we wanted you to have your quality review. Make sure you're okay with what's in there. You guys are okay. Thumbs up to Mary and Kate.
Okay.
And then they can go. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so inside the packet that Kate sent out is a link to the, why am I having trouble with this? Story map. And inside the story map on some of the pages is a community survey that's got, it's like 15 or so questions, 17. So should we take that now or?
Completely up to you. If you input it tonight, whatever, it'll go to our servers. It is live.
It probably would be a good idea for everyone in this room to take a look at it.
Yeah.
See if anything pops out at you off the bat as, could be improved, whatever, and let us know that as we look at
Can we
it.
access it now as a group just to look over? it?
If you look in the online packet,
Yeah, I
yes.
mean, I can see it,
Click
but I'm
on
saying,
PowerPoint.
has
Yeah.
everybody seen it?
So you have to open up the
No.
PowerPoint on Kate's email
Open up, okay, got it.
that invited us to this meeting.
Yes.
There's an extra slide in there that has a link.
Yeah.
If it's easier, I can just extract that and send it.
Maybe.
Would you?
Yeah.
I sure appreciate it.
Yeah.
I mean, it is absolutely 100%.
I'm sure we're
going to go out to the
No,
public
you were
soon,
Yeah.
but we want it to be right. We want to
So
get the
maybe-
information
yeah.
that we want.
Yeah.
It was a little bit of a challenge to find, so maybe if you could
Okay.
just pull it out and send it to
Oh,
everybody.
and once we do push it out to the public, it'll be, a hero image on the front page of the website, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
I have a question. When it goes out to the public, how are you going to vet and verify that it is a resident of Borough?
Good question.
I love
What
that.
is
That's
the
probably-
trust
yeah,
in the
that's
first
always
question?
I can't.
problematic.
Because the last
But
thing.
it is trust. I can't. There's no way for me to say, oh, that person is gonna be from Baltimore.
Well, so when you fill it out, you've obviously, I imagine you gotta put your email in.
There is, yeah, some
So
contact
you
information
can't,
there.
like, I couldn't fill it out 50 times just with my own
Yeah.
email, right?
Theoretically, but if you put it in your email, like, obviously we would catch that. But yeah,
That's what I'm
yeah.
asking, what states are.
So everything that you send, I can go into the data and I can see everything that you input, right? Like, I can go through it line by line.
Is it gonna ask for
It's-
your
And
address?
It's survey one,
The
two,
very
three.
first question says, are you a resident
Yes.
of Berlin? I live in
It is-
Berlin, I
it's
work
trust,
in Berlin,
right.
I live and work, I own property, I live, work near, or I don't.
Are you capturing GeoPoint?
There is capabilities, and there is an interactive map in the story map. There's
From the Survey 123.
Yeah.
I think that it's inevitable that you're gonna get some
You're gonna
people
get
who are
some.
not residents. I mean,
I
I can tell you a story about some staff getting cussed out today because their water got turned off in Mystic Harbor.
Yeah.
Not in town.
Yeah.
Oh,
You know, you're inevitably gonna get some of that, but
So, well,
it's not like it's $1 million contest,
Yeah.
you know? It's
So-
not real exciting and sexy for people who wanna go in. and
For
submit-
privacy
Yeah.
reasons, like it doesn't store like.
I know,
addresses or anything,
absolutely
yeah.
it happens. I think it'll be the minority.
Yeah, and, you know, we talked on the selection process, that at events, so say you have you're a vendor at, say, the Berlin Spring Celebration, I mean, it's gonna be challenging to filtrate out, you know, who's a citizen and who's not. But, I mean, input, I think, to me, it was more about, you know, optics and making sure we're trying to reach out as far as we possibly could.
Yeah.
And that's the,
And
thousands
the-
of people in town.
My agreement along with that and counter to like the issue in general. Even people who don't live in Berlin, work in Berlin, or care about Berlin, their input's not irrelevant. Obviously, residents are driving this, right? It's a plan for the residents. But there are outside meetings that do have value. So I would never exclude anything at first gasp.
Right.
And what it comes down to is like when we start seeing really crazy data, like because we can access the raw inputs and we see really crazy data, we just start looking, and it is what it is.
Is there is there a percentage of surveys that you're looking for getting back? Like if we get 5% compared to, obviously, 100% would be great, we'll never get 100%.
If we got 5% plus, I would be ecstatic.
When we first started this
Yeah.
process, we were doing Island Creek and gift cards.
so we'll,
200
question.
Yeah, that's a good number.
Oh, no,
The surveys are so
yes,
hard
yes,
to
yes,
get
yes.
responses.
So Salisbury has a population of 37,000, and I would historically get like 3.
Right.
So you have a spread that launched the story on that website. So I'm a person of dates. So if we have our reviews in or whatever our QA in by like, just a guess, like March 1st, that's a week basically. Could-
We
would
are
you be
ready to
looking
launch as soon as you are.
So then, when's our first council meeting in March? That'd be the 9th. So if, I'm throwing this out here, I don't like to go too much, but if we have our feedback back by March 1, and we announce it, it's available at the council meeting on the 9th, could it go live on the 10th?
Yeah.
I mean, is that, I'm
It-
just throwing out names.
It is live, so as soon as you distribute
Well,
it,
to the
it
public.
becomes public,
As
yes.
far as pushing it out on
Right.
social media,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
The
You
one,
can
the-
have that ready to go.
The one thing I ask is that the survey particularly, I can make changes to the story map throughout, and we'll update it throughout, like as we do things.
Oh, I'm talking about the survey.
Yeah, so the survey in particular, I want, once we go live, I don't want to change it, because then it throws off everything that goes out.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So just make sure we do that.
Which is why I want this group to look at it now and,
But is it, are
Try
you
to-
now, like here, or like a week? I think a week
well,
is fine.
yeah, that's what I was thinking,
Okay.
like, oh,
Just making sure.
no, not right this second.
Yeah, well, that was,
Yeah.
it was just a thought, but I thought that would be good, because then we can say it.
How do you want us to compile comments on the survey?
You could, you could email Kate.
What I'll do is I'll send the link tomorrow morning, just to the top of the inbox. And as you review it, if you want to email me directly, I can then be the kind of point of contact for Will.
Yep.
Not a reply to that situation.
Boom, file. I hate that. I'll blind CC you, it's fine. Just, I mean, I don't want to dig into the survey, but the first question, just because we're in the group, do we care if someone filling out the survey just lives in Berlin or rents versus owns? Because there's an answer that says I own property, but it's not my primary residence. I live here, I work here, or I do not live or own property.
So to me, priority one is who lives here regardless of whether they own it or not.
Okay.
Dude, if it said, I don't live or work here, it should automatically just shut off.
Thank you for participating.
You're done.
Thanks for the click.
Yeah, really and truly. it
I mean,
should
you
say-
do find that on surveys sometimes. It
Yeah.
says, thank you, but you don't, meet our minimum
I mean,
criteria
if
or
it were
whatever.
me,
Something
and I was in
nicely,
trouble, that's what it
saying
is.
that nicely, but yeah.
I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I don't know, kind of as a taxpayer here, owning property, I value that opinion more than somebody who just rents and lives here. sorry. That's just how I feel about it.
Well, rent to live here, they could be just lifelong renters. You know, I'd hate not to hear their
And they
politics.
still are impacted by the decisions of, you know, the various areas, transportation, and parks, and all those.
And they're residents of the town, they do vote.
Yep. Pay a lot of taxes. I think sorry, I'll stop.
The maps in this, are these are on your guys' servers. Can we get access to these so we can look at them and validate?
So if you go into the story map,
Does-
they are live in the story map.
Okay.
It'll take you right to it. There's an interactive map embedded in there too that'll, you know, bring it up. You're a GIS guy, you know what I'm saying. So when you go
Yeah.
into it, it'll open it up.
And I know some of the data is not up for, like, the state has certain, what's the easement boundaries. Like, if some of those are up for dispute, that's not part of our comp plan, but it's like, that
Yeah.
might dictate what we do with growth.
So I will say, and here's a caveat, so we pulled the data, almost all the data came from Berlin. So it's up to date as of what Berlin has right now. And when Megan gave it to me, she was like, there are some known errors I'm working through. So I do know that.
Okay.
So I'm aware of those. Like there's like a parcel here, or a SNP there, or maybe it's this parcel, maybe not. Like,
Sure.
we're aware of those.
Where did you get the environmental features from?
That's from NDE or DNR, whichever one has that.
Because
It's
the
now
county
another
has all
data.
the forest conservation easements that MDE doesn't always
Yeah.
have. Because I
Okay.
know there's forest conservation easements.
I'll double check.
That
I
aren't
wanna-
too many, there's just here and there.
I want to say it came off Maryland Open Data Portal. So I want to say it's DNR one, but I'll double check that. The one that's not is the community features. Town didn't have that, and it wasn't a Maryland thing. So we took the open layer, and then I went through and updated because I knew where everything was. So the things that were off, I fixed. Like it had the west side or the east side community center was off by like 3/4 of a mile. The police station was still in its old spot right next door.
How much trouble would it be for you to provide your data sources?
Oh, you wouldn't get to. The vast majority of them are already open in public.
And eventually they'll all be referenced in the contract.
Correct.
Yeah, but.
I mean, for right now, yes.
You mean at the end of the
But it
project?
seems like we have questions concerning the data sources here now. Yeah, if that could be provided, we could answer a lot of those questions.
Yeah, I think that is as simple as us going in and then just pulling the layers out.
Yeah.
Because it's all back, it's in the back of the system. It's
That'll work.
nothing past.
And even if it was tomorrow and Iran publishes, you wouldn't publish that data without a note saying this does not include data for,
Correct.
you know, this particular development. We have to consider that, you know, qualitatively.
Right.
But if
So like,
we could provide
are you talking about like specifically like
I'm guessing that, you know,
that one?
that's what.
About that one?
being referred to, yeah.
So that, no current considered data is going to have that, if that's the question.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is there isn't going to be a written portion that's referencing that data that doesn't somehow reference the fact that we don't have data for that.
Acknowledge it, like, hey.
Oh, I
these
see.
zones-
Like, you could just ask,
Like,
like, change the layer name to say census 2020.
Right.
Yeah.
Which might be what it's labeled, I'm pretty sure it is.
But if we're referencing that data in
No.
terms of a qualitative assessment of the population and where the population is, you're not going to talk about it in writing form without.
Correct. I see what you're saying.
Population
Yes.
exists.
Yes.
So we're gonna send you.
But
So it's not going to just not show up. It might not show up on the map because that's the technical data
Right.
that we have, but we're going to speak of it.
I see what you're saying now. I didn't I thought you were talking specifically like in the system, or in the GIS system.
I love that you guys are using GIS. I've helped town of Denton with their account plans when they're not using GIS. And it is, I don't even know how you.
I don't know how you would do that in 2026.
So
So for
are
this,
there,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
are there more questions related specifically for Berlin's comp plan? Have you gotten your questions answered?
Well, I just have one
Comment.
question. The projected growth, no, I brought it up earlier.
It's really bugging me, isn't it?
It just, it shows that we're only our population's only gonna increase 169 people in 25 years. So our population's only increasing 7 people a year. Is it possible there's just like a like a decimal error in there?
We'll double check. I doubt it, because that's coming off, like, it's being billed directly from census.
Yeah.
Another one.
Well, think about it, if Ocean's East wasn't already on there, and
Right.
whatever the other smaller places are, we've already surpassed that 3
Yeah.
times over.
Yeah.
No, I get it, it's just-
Yeah, no doubt. I
We're,
mean,
we're,
we've
town has a
already-
population of 5,000, so when you take 12.1 over 10 years, well, that's 1.2% a year.
Yeah, it's.
You're talking,
It's 5 people.
talking double digits, yeah.
That would still be 10%.
So I would say for this group, Kate will send out the link tomorrow. Take a look at it as soon as you can. We'll aim for next week. Respond to Kate with any, particular concerns or clarifications or questions. But then as far as going forward, there will be different formats of public meetings and public outreach. Anytime something's coming up, encourage people to participate in the process, organizations to participate in the process. Just, that's the only way that we'll really end up with a plan that says what we want it to say is participation.
And
So I'm sorry, I have to look at the survey, so that's my fault. But you said organizations, which brought up like faith-based organizations. Well, I'll take a look at the survey, but I'm just going to ask the question. Does the survey allow for like a group answer? Like if a religious leader is speaking on behalf of their parish or whatever, their
Well, there are multiple,
congregation,
you can do multiple
they-
answers. Like I just did it, you can choose multiple, as many as apply
Okay.
to that whomever's answering the questions. But I think, maybe it's the time of day for me, I was just like, Jesus, where does it end? You know what I mean? Because there is the open opportunity to answer as many as you like, and there's like 6 or 7 different, I'm not judging it, I'm just stating, like 6 different
Well, I'll take a look.
options per.
And more, and I wasn't clear on this, I was speaking more to the overall process than the survey necessarily. And when I think of organizations, I mean, I know that I had questions from, I'm going to say this, but I know it wasn't like Maryland Coastal Bays. And the question led into, hey, we're getting ready to do our comp plan. Please participate. Because they bring perspective
Okay.
that maybe the average citizen doesn't, but it's definitely worth it for the town to.
But I do like that it has
Yeah.
the option to do, like, the second question to each question is the larger box, you
Yes.
can say other, and you can add
Right.
in, it's not like a
Right.
tiny other, and you don't get to expound upon, so you can do that with every
And
single
we
question.
will read those.
But I do believe this survey would be more valuable if it's completed by individuals.
Yes, I would agree.
Yes.
So, I was gonna go to that point, I don't mean to cut you off. So to answer your question directly about faith-based organizations,
So they-
what I would recommend, put it out to them, through the churches, whatever. Have them disperse the code and the link to
To the
the
congregation.
parishioners, yeah, the congregation.
Yeah.
For an organization like CBT, them writing a memorandum or a letter that comes through you, and we'll take that as feedback.
Right.
And that's perfectly fine. That way they capture the organization's perspective, and then the individual employees want to do it, they can. But
Will there be printed forms of the survey anywhere that, my mom and papa are like, no, I'm not looking at this computer? Could they come and do that?
We probably won't have them just generally available, but if
Right.
anybody asks, we would be happy to print it out and get it from there.
Someone would have to submit it.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Dictation.
When I put it out with social media and stuff, I can put myself in contact person saying, if you prefer a hard copy of this, I can get it.
Yeah.
The key is it does have to go in the system though.
Yes, it does have to be.
Just fill it out.
Will it be available in Spanish as well? Not that, I don't think we have a majority Spanish, we definitely don't have majority Spanish speakers, but there may be some who prefer to answer in other languages.
Let me talk to somebody. We do have a Spanish speaker in the office that can probably translate it. Let me talk to somebody.
We learned a long time ago. Google Translate is not.
No, but we have a legit native speaker in the office that does translations for us. Let me,
Yeah.
like, native speaker, so better than any of us.
Oh, yeah.
or ChatGPT or whatever, just delete it.
If there are no more questions.
Second.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank you for your participation
Yes,
this
thank
evening,
you.
and this meeting is adjourned.
I think.
Measuring tape?
Even if it reduces his stormwater flow. So let's say they were getting a 7 flow